Nana was sprawled on the couch, absorbed in his book while the clock ticked away. His roommate, Fuyukawa Kaguri, was cramming for an exam on the floor, surrounded by a chaotic spread of notes and highlighters. Fuyu wasn't thrilled about being under his roof despite their long-standing friendship, especially considering her parents' erratic work schedules. Normally, entrusting a girl to a man living alone might seem questionable, but Nana's charm and laid-back attitude made him an odd choice for a guardian. Fuyu grumbled about the unfairness of it all, Nana staying up late while she was burdened with studying. She couldn't help but think that Nana would lecture her about responsibility if she tried to stay up past her bedtime. After all, he had a reputation for being the adult in their quirky living arrangement. Despite his adult privileges, the situation was far from ideal. Nana was perfectly fine with this arrangement, playing the role of reluctant guardian while Fuyu, with her beauty and academic stress, added a bit of drama to the otherwise mundane evening. The dynamic between them, though marked by some tension, brought a strange sense of balance to their lives. During their late-night chat, Fuyu asked Nana why all his shirts were white, pointing out that she was currently wearing one of them. Nana was taken aback. This wasn't the first time he'd noticed her borrowing his clothes. He playfully pinched her cheeks, teasing her about how her pale complexion made her blend in with the white shirt, making it hard to spot her face. Fuyu explained that she found oversized clothes comfortable and asked if she could at least relax while staying with him. Nana, recognizing the effort she put into maintaining a proper demeanor outside, nodded in understanding. He took a sip from his glass, casually reassuring her that he didn't mind her wearing his clothes. They were childhood friends after all. Then Fuyu dropped a bombshell, casually mentioning that they were engaged. Nana nearly choked on his drink, spluttering as he tried to explain that it was just a joke his parents made due to their close bond. Fuyu, however, remained firm, insisting that she didn't see it as a joke. He ponders why his parents would impose this situation on him and replies that it is intended for him to act as her guardian. He contemplates saying more but refrains, instead telling her she can indulge herself as much as she likes while staying in his house. She moves closer to him and asks if she can be spoiled in this manner. He is puzzled and clarifies that he meant emotionally, not physically, but she disregards this and leans towards his cheeks. She then halts, remarking that she forgot her homework and will complete it before going to sleep. Her heart races as she approaches him, and he becomes embarrassed. Just as she anticipated, she blushes, reflecting on it and feeling she can now act spoiled because he has given his consent. Meanwhile, Nana remains shocked and embarrassed while cooking. Carrie mentions that Nana's real name is Turusai, and that he was her neighborhood's older brother who used to look after her. She found herself longing for him since he always spent time with her, and now that she is in high school, she has gotten to know more about him and has come to think that he is very charming. Nana wakes up unable to sleep, recalling what Kaguri did last night. He tries to brush it off, reasoning it could be a common greeting abroad, but he cannot because there is no way it is as simple as it appears. She has become much more beautiful as a high school student, and he is certain that people around her won't leave her alone, prompting him to question why he was chosen. Suddenly, a knock on the door causes him to flinch. She enters the room and tells him he is going to be late. She notices that he doesn't look well, and he admits that he didn't get any sleep last night. He gasps, worried she will figure it out, and tries to explain with a smile. She asks if it was because of her. He becomes embarrassed and wants to discuss yesterday, but she asks if he has time right now, reminding him that he mentioned his boss is a scary person. He gets up and ponders that he will ask her when he comes back. He inquires about breakfast, and she tells him she has already prepared it. He pats her and thanks her, making her face blush while eating. She mentions that his hair is messy, and he tells her not to worry and that he will fix it before leaving. Kaguri becomes gloomy because he hasn't returned home yet. She wonders if he actually didn't like her touching his cheeks, and if she was too shameless. She thinks it would have been better if she had just maintained their relationship as childhood friends. The door opens and he enters, exhausted from lack of sleep. She quickly jumps on him and apologizes to him. He tells her that he should be the one apologizing for working overtime. She expresses her worry that he didn't want to come home because of what she did. He asks if it was a display of love, and she reveals that she wouldn't have done it if she didn't like it. He explains to her that she has always been with him, so she doesn't know much about the world, and that there are people who are better than him. She insists that it's not true and admits that she doesn't know a lot. He asks who she thinks corrected her lack of common sense. She finally understands and asks if he has a girlfriend or someone he likes. He replies in the negative, prompting her to cheekily ask if he is married. He replies that he isn't and adds that it's not because he has someone else he likes, internally reflecting that he doesn't know how long he has been attracted to her. He didn't want to make her someone who would only prioritize him before becoming aware of their age difference. He was trying to keep his distance. He tells her that he wants her to be happy, even if it's not with him. She asks if he doesn't like her catching him off guard. Before he can respond, she hugs him. He explains that he hasn't said anything yet, and she replies that she got the gist of it. To get the answer she wants from Nana, she is going to spoil him. He is puzzled. From that point onwards, regardless of his intentions, her persistent and gentle assault begins, like falling snow. At school, Carrie's friend asks if she is going back home. She responds with a yes, adding that she'll catch up with her tomorrow. Carrie's manners are also beautiful, like she came straight out of a fairy tale, but they wonder why she always goes home after school ends, and whether she attends lessons or cram school. When she is outside, she acts well-behaved and polite, but at home, she acts differently. Since their exchange that day, she has been like this every day, and Nana wonders if she even knows what she is doing. He tells her that their relationship is still one of childhood friends, but she doesn't like it and insists that they are engaged. Though he disagrees, she inquires if he hates her. He shakes her off and informs her that it's a devilish way of asking, done on purpose, revealing that she is a devil. He blames himself for not answering her properly, thinking that if only he could reject her. He sits and sighs. She looks worried and grabs him, pressing his head to her chest. He becomes embarrassed and flustered, starting to sweat and asking what she is doing. She tells him she felt something wicked in the air, and he responds that the only wicked thing is her. He finds himself held down in an awkward position, unable to gather his strength and getting dizzy because she just came out of the shower, smells very nice, and is also very soft. She giggles and reveals that she has been wanting to do this for a long time. He blushes and tells her to stop calling him Nana, but she replies that she won't. He feels exasperated because he is at the mercy of her affection, leaving no room for him to act maturely. Nana is watching television when Carrie appears, causing him to flinch. She informs him that she's willing to bend over backward for him if he assists her with studying. He responds with a sly comment, telling her to just ask like a normal person would. She wants to study math and reveals that she didn't score as well as she had hoped on the quiz she took the previous day. She shows him the problems and gets close to him. Nana feels uncomfortable and moves to the other side. She asks why he is sitting across from her, saying it will make it hard for him to read. He assures her that it's fine. She asks if he is good at studying because his mom used to brag about it. He replies that he wasn't that good but was in the top 5 of his class. He looks at the problem and tells her that it's not like she couldn't have done it, wondering what went wrong this time. He says she could have easily solved it as she remembered the basic formulas and questions and had been paying attention in class. She tells him that her head was filled with thoughts of him when she was learning. She accidentally spills this out and starts to flutter, as she didn't mean to say it. He hides his face and says that now she's embarrassed about it. He tells her that it's his fault her grades are slipping and asks if she wouldn't feel more at ease if she stayed at her own home. She starts crying and tells him he doesn't need to say that much. He is shocked and apologizes to her, promising that he will study with her until she understands. She reveals her blood sugar is low and requests him to give her a bite of the pudding he is eating. He gives her some, but she wants him to feed her. He sighs because she is already in high school and spoon feeds her, remembering doing this when they were kids. She tells him that one bite is enough, and he apologizes, stating that he did it out of habit. The scene shifts to the past. While returning from school, he notices Kaguri and inquires about her presence there. He asks if she is alone, and she replies that she is always alone since her parents are at work, leaving no one at home. He recalls her mentioning that she likes cocoa, and she confirms this. He then explains that she knows he is adept at making cocoa and sees no reason why she wouldn't enjoy it. She appears puzzled, so he elaborates that it can only be made at his house. He mentions that their parents are close friends and that they can simply call her parents later, adding that his mother is home today. Unsure of what to do, she hesitates, but he reassures her that leaving her alone in the cold park would make him seem like a bad person. Reluctantly, she agrees to accompany him, stating that she can't let him appear as a bad guy. He understands and advises her not to go to the park alone. He has always been the protective older brother who cares for her and assists her whenever she is in distress. She feels that he is the one for her and believes he feels the same. She arrives at this conclusion because he remains impassive towards other women, but exhibits a unique reaction towards her, becoming embarrassed when she gets close or touches him. Since he never stops her, she was able to behave this way in the past. However, she is uncertain why he doesn't admit his feelings and speculates that something might be preventing him. Observing him playing a game, she impulsively jumps at him. He cautions her to be careful and asks if she wants the game to end. She insists that he is skilled at games, so it doesn't matter. He retorts that his skill has no bearing in this situation. She recalls reading in a magazine that calling someone's name softly in their ear can be effective. Whispering his name startles him, and she explains that she called his name to get his attention. He tells her not to imply that she will continue doing it. Determined, she contemplates that even if obstacles are preventing him from confessing his feelings, she will make him like her so much that those obstacles will no longer matter. Nana's coworker asks if he has finished his work, and he confirms he has. The coworker then wonders if they gave him a lighter load today, to which he replies that he's more tired than usual. The coworker notes that normal people can't even leave on time because of the workload, calling him an efficiency freak. He is surprised and asks if that's true. The coworker explains that because he works quickly, makes no mistakes, and is used as an example, he has earned that nickname. He asks if he's being blamed, and the coworker comments that he does have a habit of completing work most rationally. Nana mentions that guys with good grades at his school used to say something similar, and they were also popular. The coworker suggests that he might have just glimpsed something extraordinarily tragic, revealing that since Nana is a great guy, the women in their company are fussing over him. Nana denies this, insisting he isn't like that. The coworker then asks if he has a girlfriend, causing Nana to shudder and reply that he doesn't. He announces he's heading home to eat, and as he leaves, the coworker muses that Nana may not be a genius, but he's definitely smart. He can't help but feel envious, wondering if Nana is going home to cook for himself and reflecting on his answer of not having a girlfriend. As he enters his home, Kagari is waiting for him. Although he doesn't have a girlfriend, he has a childhood friend and a temporary fiancé. He is tired, and Kagari tells him that she followed the recipe and made food again. He is amazed and notes that her variety of dishes is soon going to surpass his. She grins, and he asks what the matter is. She reveals that it feels like they are newlyweds. He shudders and pinches her cheeks, reminding her that he has told her many times that the idea of her being his fiancée was just their parents talking about coffee and cookies. She reveals that their parents have been saying it since they were kids, and it hasn't changed yet, making it no longer a random promise. He tells her that, as usual, his opinion wasn't even taken into account. He reflects that for the longest time, he can't seem to be rational with her. He implies to Kagari that he wants to cut down the number of dishes he will wash. She replies that she knew he was going to say that. As the rain pours down at the station, Kagari texts him to hang tight so they can go together. Once she arrives, she offers a heartfelt apology for the delay. He graciously thanks her for showing up, and she sweetly hands him the umbrella. He playfully remarks on her foresight for bringing an umbrella to school. He mentions that it's raining hard, but it's not a problem because their home is nearby. She points out that if she holds the umbrella, his head might get caught in it. He says he will hold the umbrella, but before that he gives her his jacket. She asks why he is giving her this and worries that he will catch a cold. He explains that if he holds the umbrella, he is afraid her shoulders will get wet, adding that he was going to run home anyway until he heard she was coming. Since it's her, he wants to do this for her. She tells him that she cares about him and doesn't want him to catch a cold. He sighs and proclaims that she is the one who needs to be taken care of. A rosy hue spreads across her cheeks as she comprehends his words, leading to a simultaneous blush fest between the two of them. On their way, she comments that they are sharing an umbrella. He recounts to her that they used to do it a lot in the past because he never carried an umbrella with him. She remarks that he is sometimes off point because of his childhood friend Filter. Before, Kagari started stealing his shirts, and she does this so often that his shirts don't go back to where he put them. He notices that his shirts are missing again and realizes it must be Kagari. It's not like she is building a nest. He knocks on her door and asks if she has any of his shirts. She asks if he will take them, and he replies that he will. He says that if she is sleeping, she should leave them be, and he will come and get them himself. He opens the door and enters, only to see her with her clothes unbuttoned and exposed. Embarrassed, he quickly slams the door shut. He states that he will come back once she has woken up. Blushing, he thinks that she didn't mean it intentionally and decides to let it slide in hopes of mercy. She wakes up and notices that she is wearing his shirt, which is very loose. She starts blushing because he came into her room and was flustered, and she thinks of wearing something cute next time. She asks if he saw anything when he came into her room, and he tells her he didn't, without making eye contact. Kagari requests Nana to go shopping with her, but he doesn't want to. She insists that just because it's his day off doesn't mean he needs to be lazy. He replies that he can't help it because it's his day off and he doesn't often get much sleep during the weekdays. She threatens him that if he doesn't get up, she will do it on his cheek again. He quickly gets up and tells her to come along. She shows him her list, and he is glad that she doesn't stick close to him when they are outside, wondering what would happen if the neighborhood found out that they are living together. She asks what he wants for breakfast tomorrow, and he says that rice is good. She tells him to buy the ingredients for the side dishes. After shopping, he asks how many puddings she bought because it's a lot. She reveals that they are important bargaining chips for him. He accuses her of painting him as a sugar addict and questions if he'll devour it. He confidently agrees, curious about her demands. He inquires what she's bargaining for. He spots a bike approaching and swiftly ushers her to the side, leaving her feeling red-faced. He teasingly points out that she's usually glued to him, so why the sudden space? She retorts that it's because they're not at home. He inquires if she gets shy in public, to which she sheepishly nods. He finds her cute but reminds her that they went home together under an umbrella and shouts that they weren't that close. Kagari's mom calls her and expresses that she wants to talk to Nana. He takes the phone and she asks how he is doing and if Kagari is bothering him. She also inquires if they are using the sofa she gave them. He informs her that Kagari is sitting on it, and she asks about him, to which he replies that he is only standing. She explains that she gave them the sofa with the hope that they would make it a place to spend time together. He reiterates that he has said it repeatedly. She can't just leave her daughter with him because he is a single man living alone. She reveals that Kagari, his parents, and she all agree it was fine, and that Kagari is also his fiancé. He tells her that it's something parents only say to each other. She knows it and asks if it's bothering him and if Kagari is being a nuisance. He responds that it's not like that. She explains that when he first started distancing himself from Kagari, she became very depressed, and no matter what she did, she was listless, even when something good happened. But she was relieved when he called her, and she sounded much happier. He tells her she is exaggerating, and she insists he has no idea how much Kagari likes him. He says that it's easy to understand, and she tells him that due to security reasons, she wants him to take care of her. He asks what the reason for the call is, and she reveals that she has some vegetables from the countryside and will be sending them over. He thanks her and the call ends. Kagari asks what her mom called for, and he tells her that she is sending some vegetables. She asks if they were only talking about that and not something else, inquiring if they are planning to put her in a box and send her back like vegetables. He assures her that he is not going to do that. She asks if he is telling the truth. He reveals that he wouldn't send her back without discussing it with her first. She asks why he allowed her to live there and why he didn't just refuse. She thought he would turn her down. He tells her that at that time she looked like an abandoned cat. She is shocked, and he tells her he didn't mean it in a bad way. She accepts that she is a cat, takes his hand, and licks it. He gets embarrassed, and while blushing, she tells him that he needs to take good care of the cat he picked. She goes into her room. He reflects that when she came looking like that, he couldn't leave her alone because he didn't know what she was thinking. He checks his phone and sees Kei's message. Today is the day he promised to attend the festival with her. He informs her that he is on his way home, and upon arriving, she is eagerly wondering when he will return. She asks if her yukata looks nice, mentioning that his mother gave it to her. She also reveals that she bought a yukata for him, but he responds that they won't have time to look around. He wears it and opts to change into his usual clothes. She observes that many people from their area are heading to the festival. He inquires if she has always loved festivals, and she responds that she loves candied strawberries and that he used to take her to festivals frequently. He reminds her that sometimes it was with her parents and sometimes with his. She adds that she has also gone along with him a few times. Suddenly, she trips and bumps into him. He asks if she is okay, and she assures him that she just tripped. He recalls that she wasn't comfortable with being so close together outside and wonders why she is fine with it at home. She asks if he has shared his thoughts about her yukata. He struggles to articulate something, and she asks if it's weird. He is at a loss for words and feels like a scoundrel. She mentions that he often says she looks good in blue, so she chose the color and accessories accordingly. But now she thinks she should have chosen something else. He composes himself and tells her that she looks beautiful, making her blush and feel happy. He covers his flushed face as he has been trying not to say such things to her. But he had no choice. The two of them reach the festival, and she asks if he thinks there will be any peculiar stalls this year. He recounts to her that a long time ago, there was a stall that sold short and stubby cucumbers. She is surprised, and the boys are talking about her. He suggests they buy masks first, and she is stunned. They have some time before the fireworks show starts, and she asks where the candied strawberries are. He tells her there are a few candy stalls, and they should go look for them while exploring. She notices that the fireworks have started and says they need to go somewhere less crowded. He tells her to watch her phrasing. She is amazed by the fireworks. He recalls that she was scared of the sound of fireworks when she was a child, and she asks why he is talking about their childhood. He reveals that it is because he hasn't been able to go to festivals with her recently and feels like he has dug his own grave after saying it. She tells him it's because he was avoiding her. He apologizes to her, and she thanks him for coming with her this year and hopes she can come with him next year. Out of instinct, he grabs her hand and wonders what he is doing because she is just a childhood friend to him. Yet he cannot convey that they will go together next year. He releases her hand. She tells him to wait, grabs his hand, and says it's fine even if it's just as childhood friends. She asks if she can hold his hand. He asks if she isn't embarrassed being close to him outside. She says it's okay because she has a mask, and he tells her that's the issue. Even if they are just childhood friends, it is strange to hold hands at their age, and she really didn't think this through. She asks him what she should do to hold hands with him. He blushes and informs her that it would be a problem if she got separated from him. She concedes, admitting his correctness and the possibility of a split. Taking his hand, she inquires about the duration of their hand-holding session. To her delight, he informs her that she has the privilege of holding hands with him all the way home. Back at home, Kagari sees Nana and asks if he is playing a game. He tells her that his friend asked him to play and mentions that he is tired from work. She asks if it's a PvP game, and he confirms, adding that all his teammates are down while playing. She rests on his lap, causing him to get embarrassed and ask what she is doing, telling her to get off him. She apologizes for causing him to die, but he tells her he is going to die anyway. He explains that it happens and that he cannot move until he finishes the match. Finally, after some time, he wins, but his eyes start to hurt, and he wants to take a rest. Kagari tells him it's his turn now and places his head on her lap. This startles him, and she says this would help him rest. He tells her this will have the opposite effect, starts blushing, and tries to calm himself down. She asks how it is, and he tells her it's fine but tries to get up. She doesn't let him and tells him to shut his eyes because they are hurting and she will keep them warm. She says she is doing this because she wants to, and it's best to leave her be since he cannot do anything when she gets stubborn. Without strength, he quickly falls asleep. She looks at him happily and says that he is not good at letting others spoil him, and if they get married, she will spoil him every day. She also wants to be spoiled and guesses that they would just have to spoil each other. Then the story leaps to Kagari and Nana's school days. There is a neighborhood event taking place. She asks Nana if he will join the activities, but he declines, saying he needs to help his mother. He suggests it would be a good opportunity for her to make friends her age. However, Kagari is slower than the other children and often finds herself in trouble. In the end, it is always Nana who finds her. Later, she is left behind by her group. She stumbles and starts crying when Nana finds her. He hugs her tightly and reassures her, telling her not to cry as he is for her. He then carries her on his back and takes her back to the group. From that day on, Kagari develops a fear of the dark and ghosts. In the present, she still clings to Nana and refuses to go to sleep until he does. Contemplating her habit of clinging to him, he suggests they watch a scary movie in an attempt to tease her. Kagari agrees, but only if she can hide under his covers during the scary parts. She teases him, calling him a liar when he proposes they watch a variety show instead. The next day, when Nana returns home, he finds Kagari wearing a stunning black dress. She greets him with a playful challenge. Does he want to give her a treat or be tricked? Confused, he asks if it is Halloween. Surprised, since he has just arrived home, Kagari explains that since she started living with him, she has become obsessed with celebrating various events, even if they are a hassle, and expects him to participate as well. Showing him a treat box, she urges him to make his choice. Relenting, he hands her a cake box, knowing she likes cakes. However, Kagari doesn't look entirely pleased. She had hoped to play a trick on him instead. She admits she hasn't prepared a treat for him, but has an idea. As she calls him closer, he gently tweaks her head, surprising her. He explains that since she hadn't prepared a treat, he knew she wanted him to trick her, so he did. Smiling, he thinks that if he hadn't played along, she might have been quite upset. Relieved that he has managed to satisfy her playful side, he starts to walk away, believing he is free from her mischief. But suddenly she grabs his arm, explaining that she wants him to play a better trick. Nana feels a wave of anxiety as he sees the mischievous glint in her eyes, trying to clarify that he has already done as she asked. He is cut short when she gently takes his face in her hands, pulling him closer. She whispers that she will teach him how to do it properly later. She appears with a pocky stick dangling from her lips, muttering words that only Nana can decipher. As he playfully squeezes her cheeks, he contemplates how these little gestures always manage to tug at his heartstrings. As Kagari's class ends, she thinks about buying sauce on her way home. Walking through the corridor, she notices someone searching for her. Suddenly, a girl appears in front of her, startling her, and asks for a moment of her time. The girl leads her to the cafeteria and asks if her brother has been teasing her, calling him the lamest guy ever. Kagari looks at her in confusion, unsure of what to say. The girl, Lai, her sister, expresses her frustration with her brother's behavior. She loudly remarks that having a childhood sweetheart who has been devoted to her since childhood but doing nothing about it is just weird. Her words make Kagari blush, and Kagari asks why she is bringing this up. Ai then mentions that she plans to visit them today. Both reach home and Nana questions Lai about why she informed Kagari instead of him. Ai mischievously points out that his room looks completely different, hinting that it might be Kagari's influence. She apologizes to Nana, explaining that she didn't refuse Wai since she is family, and then informs him that his mother left something for him before going to a meeting and hands him a cup of tea. As Nana takes a sip, Ai suddenly asks why he hasn't proposed to Kagari yet, which startles him and causes him to burn his tongue. He becomes angry and asks his sister why she cares about Kagari now, considering she never did when Kagari had no friends during her childhood. He reminds her that he was the one who accompanied Kagari back then. She thanks him for his support, but he tells her it isn't necessary, feeling embarrassed. He tries to save face by explaining that she worries about Kagari now because if he continues being a brickhead, Kagari might end up hating him. Nana, still angry, pushes Wai toward the door, insisting she leave since it's late. She agrees, but not before winking at Kagari and urging her to become his lover soon. Her words create an awkward atmosphere between Nana and Kagari. Ai leaves, slamming the door behind her and mentioning that she now has news to report to her mother. Nana, deeply embarrassed, apologizes to Kagari on behalf of his sister, explaining that she often speaks without thinking. Suddenly, Kagari starts blushing, which confuses Nana as he doesn't understand why. Meanwhile, she muses on being his lover, seeing this as the first step toward a future together. As they sit on the sofa, Nana notices that Kagari has been on her phone for a while and asks what she's doing. She explains that she has been chatting with Wai, who frequently sends her sound stickers. Nana, wary of his sister's sense of humor, asks what they're discussing. Kagari smiles and replies they're talking about his childhood stories from before she met him. Alarmed, he insists that his sister must be exaggerating everything and reaches for the phone. In his haste, he falls onto her, feeling embarrassed and apologizing. Trying to deflect, he suddenly squeezes her cheeks, causing her to blush. Seizing the moment, Kagari quickly takes a picture of him, and an angry Nana demands she delete the photo. She refuses, suggesting they exchange it for a picture of her instead. He shouts that she should have asked for his permission first. Kagari explains she plans to use it as her wallpaper, which makes him even more furious. He snatches the phone from her hands and deletes the picture. Kagari starts crying, and Nanak Khan explains that it was wrong to take his photo without asking. She becomes clingy, pleading for permission to take another picture. He refuses, saying he doesn't look good in photos. She insists she won't take his face, assuring him that anything will suffice. Eventually, she convinces him, and he reluctantly allows her to take a picture of his hair. In the supermarket, Kagari spots the Valentine's chocolates and is impressed by them. She comments that she admires them every year because they look cute and, as usual, she plans to give him chocolates. Nanak Khan sighs, saying they're expensive and she doesn't need to buy them. Kagari points out that the ingredients cost much less, so he shouldn't worry about it. Shocked, he asks if she's going to make them herself, and she informs him that she does so every year. He's taken aback, having assumed the chocolates were store-bought because they look so professionally made, even the packaging. He thought she only started cooking after moving in with him. Kagari feels sad that he didn't know she had been making chocolates since childhood and has worked hard to perfect them just for him. Stunned by her dedication, Nanak Khan is silent for a moment. Kagari then asks if they taste strange to him since they aren't store-bought. Still in shock, he reassures her that they taste better every year, making her happy. She then asks if he wants to try a cake this year. Clinging to him, she grins when he mentions her familiar behavior. She admits and nudges him to go back. As Nana-kan comes home, he is struck by the silence. He remembers Kagari telling him the day before while cooking in the kitchen that she would be visiting her parents to make chocolates and would stay the night since she doesn't have school. Feeling strange being alone after so long, he decides to eat something light. As he sits in the quiet, his phone rings with a message from Kagari asking if he is feeling lonely without her. Deciding to take advantage of her absence, he opens the fridge and grabs a beer, something he avoids drinking in her presence. Suddenly, there's a ring at the door. It's Kagari who explains that she finished early and rushed over. As she enters, she expects he might be asleep. Entering the lounge, she finds him sleeping on the couch with a beer glass next to him. She realizes he doesn't drink when she is around. Approaching him, she gently suggests he sleep in his room to avoid catching a cold. He wakes up, asking if she isn't supposed to come back tomorrow. She explained that since he didn't reply to her text, she came back early. Moving closer, he suddenly comments that she smells nice, causing her to blush. He then notes it must be because she was making chocolates and asks why she had to do it at her parents' house. She is taken aback, but notices he has fallen asleep again. Smiling, she ponders aloud how he looks cute while drunk and wonders if he feels lonely without her. The next day, Kagari gives him the chocolates she made. Nana-kan thanks her and notices she is looking away. She then asks if they could spend the day together. He finds her behavior odd but listens with a blushed face. She admits that she was also lonely without him. Surprised, he questions why since they lived together. Embarrassed, she agrees without saying another word. Kagari is waiting for Nana-kan, and while waiting, a random person approaches her and asks for directions. She finds it peculiar because he could have asked anyone since there are numerous people around. She provides him with the directions, but he insists that she accompany him because he is terrible with directions and tries to reach out to her. However, Nana-kan intervenes, grabs his hand, and informs him that the information desk is just around the corner or offers to escort him there. The man departs, and Nana-kan curses him. He explains to Kagari that the true intent of people like that isn't to ask for directions and that she should be cautious. He inquires if the man did anything to her, and she assures him that she is fine. He warns her to be more careful next time. She then reveals that he has saved her many times in the past, and he responds that it's because she is so carefree. She recounts how he rescued her when she was being bullied and when she almost got kidnapped. She asks if he is angry, and he clarifies that he is not, but seeing his childhood friend receive odd looks from other guys might have dampened his mood. She apologizes, and he reassures her that she doesn't need to. He asks where they're heading, and she pulls him aside, leaving him perplexed. She discloses that she only wants him to look at her. He is puzzled and tells her that he is not going to do it, saying she shouldn't say such things on the street. She thought it would lift his spirits, and he is baffled by her reasoning. He sighs and admits that it was his fault for putting her in that situation and acknowledges her past traumatic experiences, apologizing once more. She smiles, leading him, confused, and remarks that she feels fortunate to witness his cool side. He tells her that positivity is her talent, and she retorts that he is the one who made her this way. He reminds her to be mindful of her words. Back at their home, Kagari yawns, feeling extremely sleepy. Nana-kan understands because they went out today. She responds that she had fun, but is now reaching her limit. He tells her she will catch a cold if she leaves her hair wet and uses a hairdryer to dry it. Despite being a high schooler, he still has to look after her. She recalls when she was little and he happened to dry her hair for her. He explains that it was when her parents couldn't come home and he had to stay with her while she was playing with Lai. She told Lai that they should dry their hair, but Lai ran away. After her hair was dry, he had to dry Kagari's hair. While talking, she falls asleep, and he thinks it must be because of the warm air from the dryer. She really hasn't changed since elementary school. He says her name in her ear, and she startles and jumps back. She is shocked and blushes. He realizes that he messed up because he called her name close to her ear. She asks if he called her name, and he replies that he did and asks if something is wrong with it. She insists that she is sure he said something else, and he assures her he only said her name. She grabs him and tells him to look into her eyes and tell her the truth. He replies that he is telling the truth and gets embarrassed, explaining that she was in the wrong for dozing off while he was drying her hair. He starts to sweat because she just got out of the bath and is wearing loose clothes. He grabs her, which startles her, and he pushes her away while looking away. He tells her not to get close to him after taking a bath. She asks what is wrong because she smells nice, and he states not to say that about herself. Kagari is chopping some vegetables and is now improving her cooking skills, but while praising herself, she accidentally cuts her finger. Later, when Nana-kan enters the home, he welcomes her. He notices her finger and asks if she is hurt. She tells him that she was just using a knife and cut herself. He points out that it hasn't stopped bleeding, and she insists it's all right because she has only cut herself a little. She admits that she might have overdone it since she was tired. She tells him not to worry, noting that he usually doesn't get this concerned, which surprises her. He grabs her hand and tells her that even a cut on her finger is a serious wound and that it scares him, so she needs to be careful. Her heart starts to beat faster, and she promises to be careful next time. She recalls something and asks if he didn't say something similar in the past. He tells her that she has always been a klutz, and that he would have told her to be careful about that as well. He instructs her to hold her hand higher than her heart until the bleeding stops. She is dumbfounded, changes her hand position, and asks if she can hold it like this until it stops. He is shocked and notices something happening in the kitchen. She runs to check the oven. He offers to help after getting changed. Kagari asks Nana if he knows what day it is today, and he asks what is on May 23rd. He questions if it's someone's birthday. As she turns pink, she idly mentions that it's kiss day but struggles to actually say the word kiss. He advises her to avoid the topic if she can't even utter the word. She admits that expressing herself isn't her strong suit, prompting him to question what exactly she's trying to convey. Later, Kagari meets Yae, who gives her something that her mother told her to deliver. She informs Kagari that these are her favorite bath salts and that they are only sold near where her mother works. Kagari thanks her. Yae says it's not a big deal because she also got some. She mentions that it feels strange to act as a middleman between parents and kids, asking if Kagari couldn't have received them directly. Kagari explains that her mom and dad have always been busy with work. Yae understands and recalls that Q was always at their place but doesn't remember playing with her all that much. She asks if Nana leaves her all alone in the house. She reveals that he comes back home right after work because he knows she is alone and is most concerned about it. Yae recalls a past memory and asks Nana if he is not getting too touchy with Kagari. He asks her to explain, and she tells him that when they find an interesting game, they play it together, but Kagari barely knows about two-player games. He explains that they can't imagine what it's like to be an only child and that she is also sheltered. Yae suggests that things would be better if he didn't interfere in Kagari's life. Nana retorts that it's his line because she is always eating his pudding, and he can't imagine how lonely Kagari must be feeling, so he just ends up doing all sorts of things for her. In the present, Yae tells Kagari that she should go all in on Nana. Kagari replies that she has been doing this from the start. At home, Nana doesn't mind bath salts, but he will probably get a faint scent too. Kagari suggests that it's nice, and he starts to feel uncomfortable. She asks if he wants to go first, but he declines because he doesn't want her to stay up late to dry her hair, so he will just go in later. She recalls what Yae said, mentioning that she bathes longer and always makes and waits. He tells her that he can play a game at that time and she can just go and bathe. She suggests that they should bathe together, and he grabs her hair and covers her eyes, then leaves. She tells him he is mean and sobs, but he tells her to put the bath salts in and go bathe. She asks if he wants her bath water that badly, and he is stunned, suspecting it has something to do with Yae and asking her to stop. She tells him to stop dodging her question. He is embarrassed and wonders what she meant by together. Kagari comes out wearing a shirt and ponders that even when she makes moves on him, he doesn't seem to change. They live together, but nothing is happening. He is watching television and she keeps staring at him. She comments that the actress is pretty good looking and asks if he is into black-haired girls who are older than him. He is confused and tells her that she is acting weird. She just wants to know his type because they are living together, but nothing is happening, so she thought maybe that was the problem. She asks if she is not his type, and he doesn't know how to answer her. He considers that if he replies that she is not his type, she will stop having expectations for him. But when he tries to tell her, he looks at the tears in her eyes. He pushes her and tells her that whether she is his type or not has nothing to do with why nothing has happened. He tells her to stop being silly and to stop leaning on the sofa. She thinks it's just a nonsense response and says that he cares too much about everything, forgetting to consider if she is even his type. He asks what is wrong with him caring about her. She blushes, runs away, and says it's fine. He can keep his secrets and calls him a sweet tooth. He is shocked and asks if that was the only insult she could come up with. She is happy but realizes it didn't answer anything. She remarks that she should look under his bed to find his tights, and he gently hits her in response. At the shopping center, she mentions that it's Tanabata, so Tanabata Zaku are being displayed. She picks it up and mentions they can write whatever they want. He tells her that she should write something. She replies that it would be faster to make her wish directly to him. He is stunned, and people start looking at them, causing her to blush. It isn't something she can write about. Today is Nana's day off, allowing him to sleep a little longer. Suddenly, he hears a bang. It's Kagari, who has fallen and bumped her shin against the table. He points out that she is careless and reminds her to be more careful. She apologizes. He then says he will go and boil some pasta. She replies that she is on kitchen duty today, but he retorts that it doesn't matter since a certain someone woke him up. She slams her head on the table and remarks that he would make a good husband. He questions where this is coming from and expresses his hope that she finds a good husband elsewhere, preferably someone who cooks from scratch rather than relying on packaged food. She gets up, hugs him, and says that for her, he is the one. She adds that his comment was hurtful. He asks her to let him go because he is making food. She refuses, and he reminds her that she hurt her leg, so he is taking over kitchen duty for now. She accuses him of teasing her and insists he mustn't become someone else's husband. He blushes and says he has no plans of doing so, and she vows to ensure he becomes her husband. He tells her to stop meddling with his plans without his permission. While hiding behind the door, Kagari conveys to Nana that she plans to hang out with her friends tomorrow and asks him to wake her up if she doesn't wake up on her own. He assures her that she should go to bed early to make it easier. She then informs him that she's turning off her alarm so that his voice will be the first thing she hears in the morning. Nana is puzzled but agrees to wake her up. The next morning he goes to her door and starts knocking, telling her to wake up as it's getting late, but there is no response. He tries calling her, but she still doesn't answer. Finally, he decides to go inside. As he enters the room, he finds her smiling in her sleep just like in their childhood, without a blanket. He gently taps her head, asking her to wake up, but she's dreaming about pudding and talking in her sleep. He thinks she might be dreaming about pudding because of him. Suddenly, she grabs his neck, pulls him close to her lips, and unexpectedly kisses his neck. Shocked and blushing, he tries to process what just happened. She hugs him, calling his name, leaving him confused as she seems to just want a hug. He mutters to himself that he needs to prepare a foolproof defense plan against her unpredictable actions. Kagari comes into the lounge while fixing her hair, stating that she's really late and mentioning she had a good dream last night. Nana asks her to eat before catching her train. She agrees but says she'll eat after finishing her hair. He looks at her with an annoyed expression, wondering why she has to dress so fancily. Then he notices her dress is open and informs her. She checks it and then looks at him, signaling for help. He asks why she buys dresses she can't manage on her own, but agrees to help. As he struggles with the finicky zipper, he wonders how anyone can wear such a dress without help. Kagari asks if Ichin has never worn such a dress, but he only ever sees her in hoodies and shirts. As he fumbles with the zipper, her hair gets in the way and he moves it aside. She suddenly shouts and turns around, asking why he touched her neck, freaking out. Nana shouts back that if she didn't like it, she shouldn't have asked for help. Kagari explains she didn't mean it that way. He finishes zipping her dress and rudely tells her to leave, making Kagari feel like he is being unnecessarily harsh while he sighs in embarrassment. The next day, Ye receives a picture on her phone of Kagari with a boy and transfers it to her brother. When Nana opens the photo, he is shocked. Just then, Kagari enters laughing and asks if he's happy to see her back. She tells him she brought some sweet potatoes for them to eat later and says she'll put them in the fridge. As she opens the fridge door, Nana approaches from behind and covers her eyes, startling her. He then explains he was just putting the milk away. Kagari is surprised and blushes as he's never been this close to her on his own. She asks where he's been, and he sighs, mentioning he just walked downtown and could have stayed out later. Before she can finish, he tells her it's not safe for two girls to be out alone at night. Kagari explains that her friend is cool and flashy. Although people often mistake her for a guy, she is still a girl. Suddenly, he pokes her and turns away. Kagari grabs his shoulder, asking what's wrong. He dismisses it as nothing, but she presses him, questioning why he won't look at her. He continues to refuse to clarify, then quickly runs to his room and slams the door behind him. Kagari is confused by his behavior, while Nana, on the other hand, thinks he's being unreasonable. On White Day, Nana is confused as there are many things he can choose, but he has no idea what he should select. In the end, he takes something, but Kagari tells him that even a hug could be enough for her, opening her hands to hug him. He doesn't agree. As she opens the bag, she feels happy to see the cat's soft toy. It's Nana's turn to make dinner, but he hopes that Kagari has at least made the rice. He notices her standing outside and asks her why she is standing there. She admits that she needs help, but it turns out it was just a bug. She apologizes and tells him that they had a fierce battle and she lost. He says that if it was too much, she should have called him. However, he is relieved that it was resolved and is worried that it might have been something serious. He apologizes and she acknowledges that he is tired and tells him she will take care of dinner. Nana insists that she should help him because he is not a good chef and could use some assistance. He was thinking of making curry and asked what she wanted. She comes closer and tells him that she loves how he is always trying to be fair with her. He hides his face. She asks what is wrong, and he replies that it's nothing. She presses him to tell her, and he reveals that she shouldn't say these things as they caught him off guard. She is shocked and asks if she said it out loud. Indeed, she did. She blushes and admits that she tried to hold back, but when she says these things, they are more meaningful. He is stunned and says she won, and he will go make the curry himself. She wants to help, and he wonders why he is the only one who has to endure her attacks while cooking. He mentions that this reminds him of the time they went camping as kids when someone insisted on frying the curry, which ended up as charcoal. Returning from school, Kagari mentions that her tights were ripped, so she had to go to school in socks, and now her legs are red. Nana is stunned and takes her shopping, buying her a lot of tights and mentioning that the thicker ones are warmer. She conveys that she doesn't need that many. Kagari is frightened and asks why Nana is watching a horror movie, clinging to him. He replies that he didn't know it was a horror movie, but the problem is that he failed to switch the channel in time. Now he is stuck because he put on a show that turned out to be a horror movie. Kagari has always been easily scared, and now he has dragged her into it. He presses on how to make her feel better, and in her frightened state, she asks what she should do since she hasn't taken a shower yet. Now he is caught in this situation and has to wait outside the bathroom. He admits it was his fault but wonders how it led to this. She asks him to come inside with her, and he refuses. She then pleads if he could at least stay in front of the door, clearly desperate. He doesn't want to stay there, and she asks if he is still there. He assures her he is trembling, so she questions if he is not some monster pretending to be Nana. He replies that he is still here waiting just like she asked him to. Of course, he is annoyed that she is a high school student but still acts like this. He tries to calm himself, and she tells him that she is getting out and now he wants to leave, but she asks him to wait at the door. He sighs with relief that it's over but then hears the sound of something falling. She opens the door asking him about the noise while still wearing a towel. He gets embarrassed, turns his face away, and suggests she put something on. She tells him that she heard a noise, and he replies that something must have fallen. He tries to calm her down, but she remains anxious. He moves closer to her and gently tells her to calm down because he is with her. She nervously points out that he is too close, and he quickly apologizes, assuring her that he wasn't looking. She realizes that she is only wearing a towel and becomes embarrassed, causing him to turn his face away again. She is relieved that it was him and slams the door shut, asking him to wait until she is done. He tries to clear his mind. Nana tells Kateri goodnight and leaves her room. It is still the same night when he accidentally put on a horror show, leading to the bathroom incident. She is helpless without him, and he even sees her in just a towel, but everything is fine now. She tries to distract herself by watching some videos and thinks it would be nice if she could make something delicious for him. So she watches some cooking videos in his room. Nana wonders if Kateri will be fine by herself, although there isn't much he can do about it. Suddenly, there is a knock on his door, and Kateri asks if she can sleep with him. He is confused, but she explains that she brought her own footin', and he understands. She asks if he remembers how he, her sister, and she used to sleep together. He notes that was back in elementary school and allows her to sleep here because it's his fault for scaring her. She gets frightened after looking under the bed. Nana, who is half asleep, asks what happened. She reveals that seeing under the bed scared her and apologizes for making a fuss when she was the one who asked to sleep with him. She tells him to ignore her. He grabs her arm and pulls her up, saying it would be okay since she cannot see under the bed. She is confused. He explains that she is scared to sleep with her back exposed. He has solved her problem. She notices that he is half asleep and tells him he doesn't have to go this far, but he hugs her tightly. He tells her not to act tough. She understands, hoping he remains asleep for the whole night. The next morning, he wakes up feeling something warm and sees Kageri sleeping beside him. He is stunned, confused, wondering why she is there. He remembers that she was scared, so she came to his room to sleep on the floor, but she was so frightened that he helped her. He wakes her up, and she blushes. He tells her to get up, but she refuses because he was the one who pulled her onto the bed. He says it's the same as when the three of them used to sleep together, and she reminded him of that last night. She climbs on top of him and asks if he really thinks that. He blushes and admits defeat, apologizing because his brain wasn't functioning properly last night. He decides to treat her like a child, and she reveals that she has not forgiven him. She says that if he promises they can sleep together like this sometimes, then she will forgive him. He replies that there is no way, and she tells him that he is warm and cozy, which helps her relax. He tells her that the only reason she could relax was that he was behaving in a way that made her feel safe. He sighs, wondering why he always tries to treat these matters seriously, and thinks she deserves a good pinch on the cheek. He looks at her, gets up, and sighs again. She becomes worried, and he tells her that he just wanted to scare her a little. He reveals that he will not promise her anything, and she tells him she will not forgive him. He is annoyed that she is so stubborn.